Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Boxing to all the fight fans and those alike. What's good, everybody? What's happening to the Facebook fam? What's good? To all the YouTube fam, to all the Instagram fam, what's happening, man? Joe, what's good, baby? I see you, my man. Don't forget, call us up, man, and give us your thoughts too. I get a lot of feedback on the Facebook feed. I get a lot of feedback on the Instagram feed. And the YouTube feedback is starting to come in with a lot more feedback. As the YouTube fam, starting to come through with a lot more feedback as well, because we're live on YouTube now too. But you always can feel free to call in and voice your opinions. 516-590-0997. So this week, we will be talking about the events that took place this weekend that just passed. We had a pretty decent fight card. The fight card was pretty dope last night on UFC Fight Night 133. That was on FS1 Sports. So we'll be talking about that as well. What's good, man? He just dropped the verse. Nah, my bar spitting days are over, bro. That's a long time ago. So we'll be talking about the UFC Fight Night events that took place last night. Also, Manny Pacquiao had a fight this past weekend going against Lucas Matafisi. I can never always get tongue tied saying this guy's name. But anyway, Pacquiao had a fight. He beat this guy, man. Pacquiao scored his first knockout victory in like 9 years last night. Dropped the guy in the seventh round? Seventh round. Here we go. Fact check Billy. Give me 1 second. Seventh round TKO win for Manny Pacquiao last night. Couldn't remember which round. Nevertheless, Manny won last night. We're talking about that for a minute. We'll have the results from Bellator 203 that took place this past Friday. It was a pretty dope card. Something that stood out to me about that Bellator card was that most of the fights finished, well, at least all the fights on the main card, they all were finishes. They all ended in either KO or TKO victories, stoppages, including except for the main event, which was Pitbull Patricio's fight. He defended his title successfully Friday night over in Bellator. And we will take a quick look as well at the UFC Fight Night event that is taking place this coming Sunday, which is the 22nd. So we'll be looking at that. We will not have a Combat Conversation podcast next Sunday because I will be out of town at a wine festival. Yes. But so we'll be back the following Sunday on the 29th. But we'll talk about the events, and we can talk about that when we come back. But I plan on having a special guest that Sunday, the 29th, as well. I'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, let's get to it, man. We'll talk about the results of UFC. Vince, my man, what's good, baby? How you be? Last night, my man, Dos Santos, he former heavyweight champ Dos Santos, he didn't look like the vintage Dos Santos that we're used to seeing, and I'm sure there are quite a few factors involved in that. But he looked, I'm a Dos Santos fan, so I'm probably biased in saying that he did look decent. Here I am trying not to be a fanboy. But, what's up, Vince? Man, I was satisfied with the win. I'm not going to say I was impressed with the win. I was satisfied with the win. I guess maybe considering the guy that he was fighting, he fought, excuse me, Blagor Ivanov. It was Ivanov's UFC debut last night. He is Ivanov is no slouch. He is a former WSOF World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion, so he is a very much established MMA fighter. I guess it would be a matter of opinion if he would be what some fans or some followers would consider a UFC caliber fighter. That's left to be determined in a matter of perspective. But he is definitely an accomplished fighter, so it's not like Dos Santos was fighting a rookie last night. And Blagov was giving Dos Santos a little bit of business last night in that first round. Kind of at the beginning, towards the middle of that first round, he appeared to be putting a substantial amount of pressure on Dos Santos. But Junior, of course, weathered the storm and began to, I guess, establish. I don't even feel comfortable saying dominance because of the performance last night, but he wasn't dominant in classic Dos Santos fashion. But I really do feel I agree with the decision. It was a unanimous decision win for Junior Dos Santos, and I do agree with it. I feel as though he did enough to get that decision win last night. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. Junior Dos Santos, he's a professional MMA career. Oh, let me say this. At the end of the day, JDS is going into the MMA Hall of Fame. He's a legend. Let me make sure I put my opinion concerning his career out there clearly. Former heavyweight champ. His resume speaks for itself, which most fighters of that caliber, it does. But you have certain things, there's certain factors coming into play, like the age, the amount of wars that this guy's has been in. If you follow Junior Dos Santos, I'm sure you are aware of what I'm referring to. So there are different factors coming into play. Time is not your friend in most cases when you're in this type of career. You have those rarities where, it doesn't seem to be a factor, but again, we're talking about Junior Dos Santos here. But at the end of the day, he's I think he cemented his spot as an MMA legend. Okay, so Junior, he goes to 19-5 now, 13-4 UFC record. Won the fight last night by unanimous decision. Again, Blagov, not a rookie. His pro MMA record is 16-2-1. With this being his UFC debut, and he lost. He has an 0-1 UFC record, so that would be one of his only 2 losses. And it's at the beginning of the fight, he appeared to try to establish himself as the fighter who wanted to apply the pressure. As far as having the tide of the fight in his favor. Just thinking of JDS's history, Junior Dos Santos' history, and the type of fighter he is, I would love to see a fighter like that. And there's no word, I haven't heard anything in regards to him retiring, but you don't want to see a fighter have the type of decline where you have to wonder when is he going to call it quits because he's taking L's. I don't think JDS is at that point yet, but looking at his previous fights, you would kind of think like, okay, is he getting to that point? I don't know. I hope not, because again, I am a Junior Dos Santos fan. But he was able to do enough to get the win. I agreed with the win. I agreed with the unanimous decision that they gave Junior Dos Santos. And that's not being a fanboy. I really think he earned the win. I just expected, probably because of how much of a fan I am, I expected to see more, not considering those factors that we were just talking about, going along the lines of his career. I remember he threw last night, he did show a glimpse of the old JDS, man, when he threw that spinning back kick and he almost caught Blagov. If he'd have connected with that kick, man, he'd have did some serious damage. But even in the third round when Blagoy, I keep saying Blagov, Blagoy seemed to have tried to pick up the pace and try to take the fight back over, Junior Dos Santos was able to get at him. So I don't know. I agree with the decision. I'm just looking at the ranks, man. I'm looking at the fighter rankings here in the heavyweight division. I just don't see where he will be able to fit back in at the top of the list because he is a former heavyweight champ. You got Daniel Cormier. Everybody's waiting for Kane to come back, and you know Daniel and Kane are homeboys. They're like this, so we know that they're probably not going to fight. And Daniel has set the hard retirement date for March. He has his eyes on Brock Lesnar now, and I just don't really see, at least at the top 3 to 5 people in the heavyweight division. I don't know as far as Junior Dos Santos, even some of these guys that he's lost to already, like you got Stipe, okay. You got Derek Lewis, which I think he's moved up in the ranks because he beat Francis Ngannou. You got Francis at number 4. You can scratch him off the list. Looking at his last 2 performances. You got Curtis Blades. And Junior's ranked at number 8. I'm not sure how often they update the rankings, but they have him going down to 8 from 1 spot from 7. And of course, it will probably be updated again because the fight was just last night. I think they update their ranking system or their current ranks either like a Wednesday or Thursday in midweek. So I'll check back. But looking at the way that the ranks are set up right now in the heavyweight division, I don't know, man. But then again, that's the slippery slope that is UFC. So, I mean, I do, man. Of course, you know, with Junior Dos Santos being the former heavyweight champ, you would like to see him get back to that level of prominence. But reality has it, don't really see that happening right now. I'm still gonna be a fan of JDS either way you look at it, though, man. That's just my man. But I've come to grips with the fact that he's not gonna look good as he did in his glory days. But I was happy to see that he did enough to get that W last night. So again, Junior Dos Santos with the W over Blagoff with his UFC debut. I absolutely do not think this is the last we've seen of Blagoff. And I refuse to call this a warm-up fight for him because of his MMA resume. Again, he's a former heavyweight champ over at World Series of Fighting who has transitioned to the UFC. And maybe that's why, because they didn't give him a warm-up fight against a fighter like a Dos Santos. Or maybe they did consider this his warm-up fight with him being a former champion. I don't know. If that was the case, if that is the case, or if that was the case last night, then that L would not look good on his debut resume with him being a former champion. But again, I do not think this will be the last we've seen of Blagoff. I'm going to see if I can look into the details to see how many fights they signed him for on his contract. I don't know. But I would, with that being said, I would also like to assume that him being a former champion, even though it was with WSOF, would hold a certain amount of weight. I mean, you would like to believe that. Again, that's left to be determined. We'll have to see what they do concerning Blagoy's, if I say Blagoff one more time, concerning Blagoy's future. Screw me in these notes, man. Don't worry about me. Just pay me no mind. But coffee always makes me enunciate my vocab better. Coffee. But yeah, that was a performance that I did not expect, or let me rephrase that I was not hoping for concerning my man Dos Santos. But again, happy he got the W. Sage Northcutt, he fought last night. Let me look up something for him, because I know that he was there was a certain stigma going around the UFC in regards to Sage about him being Dana's quote-unquote golden boy. And just looking at how his career started, and they putting him in the forefront, he started off rocky, man. First 4 fights, 2-2 in his first 4. And I remember the fight that he had his last loss, which was back in December 2016, was such a shock of how he lost to Mickey Gall by submission. Total mismatch. He was like a super underdog going into that fight. Mickey was. And he beat Sage with a second round submission. And the MMA world was rather shocked. But nevertheless, he has had a pretty successful bounce back. He has had W's in his last 3 fights. We're talking about Sage now, Sage Northcutt. He's looked pretty good. The first 2 being by unanimous decision. The most recent one being last night with the KO win in the second round versus Zach Attow. And he looked pretty good last night. With that fight last night, he returned to welterweight. I know he started out the fight, started his career, as lightweight, went up to welterweight, kind of paused on that a little bit. Last night it was his return to welterweight. Looked really good. He showed signs last night, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, showed signs of him still needing to work on his takedown defense, which is one of the things that got him in trouble with his two losses. Both of the losses that he has on his record were by submission. The first one against Barberina, back in January 2016, that was by arm triangle choke. And then the one we were just talking about in December of the same year, which was against Mickey, that was against a rear naked. He lost that by submission via rear naked choke. So I'm assuming that, smarter fighter, a lot of fighters will see that as a chink in his armor. And they were capitalizing on it as much as they could. So you can see that he's had improvements regarding his ground game. And Sage, everybody knows Sage is not a ground guy. He came into the world of MMA as a karate expert. His styles is listed as he's with Team Alpha Male. He trains with Uriah Faber, who's a GOAT. Kickboxing, Taekwondo, karate. He's the third Dan black belt in Kajukimbo. He's a third Dan black belt in Taekwondo. He's a black belt in Shiran-Ryu karate. And now he's working on his ground game with his jiu-jitsu. He's a purple belt in BJJ. And I'm sure he's getting that well fed to him at Team Alpha Male under Uriah Faber. So you can see the improvement in his ground game. It was noticeable last night, but there's still a lot left to be done. And again, that's just my opinion. And I'm sure it's easier said than done. I'm just saying that because I'm a BJJ guy. I'm a ground guy. I've never been much of a striker. I'm sure it's a lot easier said than done once that octagon door shuts. So I'll say that with a grain of salt and with that understanding. But he showed it last night. But the point I want to make is that he showed, I could see the improvement last night. I did. With Sage Northcutt. And he looked better than usual in regards to his ground defense last night with that W win. He scored the knockout win last night, the second round. He got dropped, though. He got dropped a few seconds into the fight. I don't want to take anything away from Zach, calling that a lucky shot. Some people might look at it as a lucky shot. Some people might say that, he was kind of sizing him up. But he did. He got dropped. He caught him with a nice shot, man, Zach did. Caught Sage last night. And that was kind of leading into the first round. Which I'm sure, gave him maybe a bit of a scare. I was like, oh, I know we're not going back to the same Sage. Because the losses that he has, those two losses were both by submission. Never known him to be dropped like that. But, he was able to weather the storm, and he came back. Second round KO win for Sage Northcutt. He goes to pro career MMA record of 11-2 with a 6-2 UFC record. That's talking about Sage. Zach, his opponent, is now with a 3-3 UFC record, an overall MMA record of 16-6, which is not bad. But his UFC record is a bit shaky here, so we're gonna have to figure out how he's gonna move forward. But when Sage got him down, hit him with a couple hammer fists, and the ref had stopped the fight. It was the co-main event for that fight, the card last night. Of course, with the main event being the Dos Santos Blagoy fight we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Sage gave him props last night after he got caught. He was saying that, man, he hit me with a good strike with his opening punch, man, and he said he must have blinked right off the bat because he didn't see it coming. And the punch that you don't see coming is the one that always gets you. So, that was good that Sage gave him props, man. He admitted that Zach caught him with a real good shot. And Sage went down, man, but he was able to get right back up and turn the tide of the fight, going into the second round and get the W, the KO knockout W, stoppage rather. And when he did get Sage down, knowing that Zach, let me look up something real quick here as far as Zach is concerned, and I'm figuring that knowing that Sage, and you know what, he is a ground guy. Zach is a black belt in BJJ, so knowing that being on the ground is Sage's weakness, so to speak, if you want to call it that. And I'm saying that because that's how he acquired his 2 losses. And seeing that, I thought that, okay, so now since he got Sage down, got him on the ground, he's going to pounce on him and try to end it the same way his previous 2 losses took place. But that wasn't the case, which is a testament to also to how determined Sage was to get that W and how tough he is. So shout out to both fighters though, man. I thought it was a cool fight, man, up until the second round stoppage. But Sage caught him, man. And Sage is just a natural striker. Sage Northcutt, he's a natural striker, man. And that was the premise he came to the UFC under, being able to strike like he did, which I'm sure is what caught Dana's attention with him being such a karate expert, Sage Northcutt. But we'll see how he moves forward. When I'm talking about Sage again, now looking at the rankings in with Sage, let me see, because Sage just moved back. We just said that he just moved back to welterweight. Yes, he did. And looking at the welterweight rankings, I wonder if it's going to get him listed up into the top 15. They only did rankings from champion and then 1 down to 15. So looking at the welterweight division in which Sage made his return to last night, you got, of course, the champ, Tyrone. He's out right now on injury. Then you got Kobe Covington. He's the interim champion. And of course, I don't think Sage is... I'm just trying to figure out if they do place him in the rankings after his win last night, because he's won 3 straight, even though that was just his initial return to a welterweight fight. I don't see him getting a title shot in the near future, but if he stays on this pace, especially with him going back to welterweight, I could see him at least getting higher up in the rankings. Not really necessarily a title shot as of yet. You still got Kobe Covington, who was the interim. And the welterweight division is kind of is a little stacked, man. Darren Till, RDA, Dos Anjos, Wonderboy Thompson, Robbie Lawler, Damian Maya, Neil Magny, Masvidal, Cowboy Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson. These are names. These are like well-known names in the welterweight division. So if Sage has his work cut out for him with his return to welterweight. I don't know why I got featherweight in my mind. Welterweight, that division is stacked. So if he does, he has a lot to go through if he wants to work his way up that ladder to get a title shot. Sage does. So we'll see. We will see. Chad Mendes also fought on the card last night. But the thing with Chad Mendes' fight is this was his return fight after a roughly 2-year suspension. Chad Mendes returned last night after fighting a little more than 30 months ago. And he came back looking tight. He looked really good last night, Chad Mendes did. Let me see something here. Bam, there he is, Mr. Mendes. All right, but while I'm pulling this up, he looked really good last night, man. First round KO over Miles Jury at that. He did. He looked really good. He goes with this win to 18-4, 9-4 UFC record. He dropped Miles Jury in the first round. Got him with a nasty left. Caught him with a nasty left, man, that just took him out. And got him down on the canvas followed up with the ground and pound. Finished him about 3 minutes into the first round. It was over with. So he's definitely making a statement to return to the featherweight division. Looking at his record, he hasn't fought since December of 2015, which was his loss to Frankie Edgar. This W is a really good W for Mendes, because before this, he had lost 3 of his last 4. lost to Jose Aldo. He beat Ricardo Lamas. Then he lost to McGregor, and then he lost to Frankie Edgar. After that, he was suspended. He got caught dirty using out of competition banned substance. Got caught by the USADA and was suspended for 2 years. Got tested positive for a growth hormone, GHRP6. He got suspended for 2 years, and he came right back like he never left. Looked really good last night. And okay, so looking at Chad Mendes, and you're looking at the featherweights. Look at the featherweight division now. Of course, with him coming back, he's not going to be really in the mix as far as the rankings are concerned. And again, they'll update their rankings sometime midweek. But this is another division that's rather stacked that he would have a bit of work to creep up to the rankings to try and get a possible title shot for the for the featherweight championship. But that's not something that's new. Chad Mendes is a former featherweight title contender, so it's not like that would be something that's new to him. But with him being out for 2 years on a PED suspension, it's going to be a rough road for him to climb. Again, looking at the featherweight division, you got the champ Max, who's like, there's a lot of champions out and the interim champions right now. Man, this injuries are like serious. You got Max Holloway, who's out right now. They haven't done anything concerning an interim champion as far as the featherweight division is concerned. And I know we talked about that last week, but I smell that coming, man. I smell the interim title coming for the featherweight division because of the nature of Max's injury. He's out on concussion protocol. So there's no telling when Max Holloway is coming back. So you got Brian Ortega, you got Aldo, you got Frankie Edgar, you got Jeremy Stevens, Cub Swanson, Duho Choi, Ricardo Lamas. Miles Jury, he lost last night to Mendez, but he was ranked number 12. Rodriguez just got put back into the rankings. He wasn't ranked previous to this setup. So I'll see where he goes when they adjust the rankings midweek. So this is another division, the featherweight division in the UFC, that is currently kind of stacked right now. So, and I'm sure they're not going to just do the whole switcheroo thing since he beat Miles and Miles was ranked number 12. And again, Chad Mendes is a former featherweight title contender. He's fought for the featherweight title 2 to 3 times. I'll look back again. Let me see. He's fought for the featherweight championship 1, 2, 3 times. So again, that's not nothing new to him. But and I know they're just not going to just put him in the 12 spot where Miles was because he beat Miles. Miles is not going to have the 12 spot anymore. You still have Duho Choi, you still got Rodriguez, you still got Zabit that are behind him as far as their rankings are concerned. So again, this is going to be a tough ladder for Chad to come and climb back up. But if he's going to continue to fight like he fought last night, I don't think that'll be too hard for him to do because he looked dope last night. I got to give it to Chad. He looked awesome. It was a pretty decent performance for Chad Mendes. I was impressed, especially with him being out for 2 years. You come back, you out for a 2-year suspension and come back like that clean. That was awesome. But I thought it was pretty cool. Man. So this is him getting back into the win column, which was a much needed win for him because of those previous 2 losses. Despite how long ago they were, over 2 years, it's still, him coming back and just to overcome that mentally too, to have the 2 losses and right behind the 2 losses, you get put out for 2 years on a doping suspension. As a fighter, as a successful fighter as he was, he could never get over that championship hump with him losing 3 fights for championship contention. I'm sure it does something to you mentally. But for him to come back like he did last night, I thought it was pretty dope, man. So shout out to Chad Mendes. We also had Kat Zingano. She beat Marion Renaud last night by unanimous decision. That was a good fight for the ladies last night. I I agree with that fight, man. It was a pretty decent fight, but an awesome performance for Kat Zingano. I think she looked really good. Yeah, she did. She did. So tell me what you guys thought, man. If you saw or you had the opportunity to check out or at least saw some of the clips from the UFC Fight Night event last night, talk to me, man. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know how you feel. Call up 516-590-0997. The line's alive. Or you can keep chiming in like you always do on the Facebook feed. Chime in on the YouTube feed. Chime in on the Instagram feed. Let me know what you guys think. And now, this Manny Pacquiao fight that took place this weekend, man. We'll talk about that, but before I talk about that, I want to give a shout out to one of my sponsors real quick. Excuse me, the Lewis Financial Group with Russell G. Lewis. He is an authorized agent with Progressive Insurance. This is an agency with the honesty and integrity that comes with a handshake. They represent a plethora of insurance carriers and financial services companies, including Progressive, as well as other carriers such as Foremost, Hagerty, American Collectors, Aetna, Assurance, Bankers Group, Universal Property and Casualty, Selective Flood, Ameriplan, Legal Shield, Transamerica, Nationwide, Victoria, College Funding Solutions, Alliance, Access Insurance, and even more. These are like some big names in the insurance world. Then he's licensed in multiple states, including here in Maryland, in Delaware, in PA, in Virginia, in Arizona, Missouri, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas, so that you can get the help you need across the U.S. of A. You can get the best of these major carriers and their expertise in him representing them. You can see more of what they do by visiting them online at www.lewisfinancialgroup.net or call them up and get a quote. 443-622-0561 to speak to an agent. Monday through Friday between 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. And is also available on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Once again, that's the Lewis Financial Group with Russell G. Lewis. www.lewisfinancialgroup.net or call them up and get a quote. 443-622-0561. Pretty awesome service. I've used them before. I promise you they're dope. Now, this Manny Pacquiao fight. Oh, boy. Okay, so now, he fought last night. He won by KO, and this was Manny Pacquiao's first KO win in roughly 9 years. He beat, you know what, I'm going to try not to get this guy's name jumbled in my throat this time, but I always get this guy's name messed up. Lucas Mathesi. Okay, anyway, I'm going to call him Lucas. I always get this guy's name tongue-tied. Nevertheless, Manny Pacquiao beat this guy last night by 7th round KO. First KO win in roughly 9 years, almost a full decade. And Manny, who turns 40 in December, he'll be 40 years old. And you know, looking at his career, you know, with you being a 40-year-old boxer, people are going to question your ability and your... Well, let's just say they're going to be looking at Manny as if he's past his prime, well past his prime, especially with the most recent performances that he's had. But let's be clear here. At the end of the day, Pacquiao is going to go down as one of the greatest boxers of all time. In my opinion, he is one of the greatest boxers of all time. Let me make sure I make my opinion clear on Manny Pacquiao. He's 67-2. 39 of those 60 wins have come by KO. And I guess with the KO win that he scored last night, a lot of people are going to wonder whether or not he's going to look like his old self again. Let me be the first to tell you that that's not going to happen. And the the ironic thing about that is, here's the funny part about that. After last night's win, his promoter, Bob Arum, had the audacity to put out there that he possibly wants Manny Pacquiao to fight Vasily Lomachenko. I'm going to let that marinate just for a split second. He said that he thinks he wants Manny Pacquiao to fight Vasily Lomachenko. Let me be the first to go on record and say, if he fights Vasily Lomachenko, I think Loma will murder him. I think Loma might catch a body if he fights Manny Pacquiao. And this is coming from a Pacquiao fan. I think Pacquiao, at the end of the day, will go down when he officially decides to retire as one of the greatest boxers of all time. I'm going to go on record right now and say that he don't want no smoke with Vasily Lomachenko. None. You know what? And with this win, I don't want to take any credit away from Manny, because Lucas is an awesome fighter. And even going back to Manny's history, his resume, even his most recent loss, he's won 3 of his last 4. He hasn't looked the best. He lost him, of course. He had to fight with Floyd back in May of 2015. He's had 4 fights since then. He's won 3 of the last 4, and in my opinion, and apparently from who I've talked to, a lot of other people's opinion, he's won all 4 of those fights, because that fight that he had with Jeff Horn was a little suspect when he lost the WBO welterweight title. In my opinion, I really do believe that Manny won that fight. And most of the people that I've talked to seem to agree with me. But nevertheless, the judges gave it to Horn, so that's what I'm going with. I have to call it an L for Manny, because the books and the papers say it's an L for Manny. So, looking at Manny's resume, he's won 3 of his last 4. Looking at that Jeff Horn fight. And just looking at Jeff Horn, putting in perspective the victory he had over Manny Pacquiao, Jeff Horn just got the stuffing beat out of him by the alien that is Terrence Bud Crawford. I call him alien because you have great fighters. I judge him in tiers. You have great fighters, you have really awesome fighters, and then you have fighters who are just like aliens. Like, this dude is so nice, he's not from here. He can't be a human. Bud Crawford is in the alien category. I'll put him. I think Loma is up there too. I think Tank Davis is knocking on the door of alien category as well. There's just a few. There's a couple. But Jeff Horn ain't had no business in the ring with Terrence Bud Crawford. He didn't. But this is the guy that they said beat Manny Pacquiao. Nevertheless, they said he beat him. That's what I'm going with. Because the records and the books and the papers say so. But going back to his opponent, Manny Pacquiao, he fought Lucas last night, won, scored the 7th round KO. There's been a lot of controversy going back and forth as to whether or not Manny Pacquiao was going to call it quits. He has a lot of outside ventures, businesses, and politics that he deals with outside of the ring. He's a senator over there in the Philippines. He has a lot of business ventures, a lot of sponsorships, and things that he does, and as far as that he has his hands tied into outside of the ring. So I'm figuring that with him as successful as he is outside of the ring, you would think that at this point in his career, that the retirement, looking at the success that he's had throughout his boxing career, he had a successful boxing career, and now he's having success outside of the ring as well. That, to me, in my opinion, I would think with his age, he's knocking on 40's door. Is 40. That retirement would be more appealing, unless you're a boxer, who still has an itch to scratch, which apparently Manny does, because Bob Arum is saying that he wants to. He's knocking on 40's door. I'm sorry, he'll be 40 in December. You would figure or assume that retirement would be more appealing. Apparently not, because his promoter is dropping hints that he wants him to fight Lomachenko. I really do not see that. Please, I hope they don't do that, because and this is just my opinion. I think that Lomachenko is going to embarrass Manny Pacquiao. I don't know. I just don't see that happening. But nevertheless, there was a W for Manny last night, man. He didn't look like he looked okay. He looked better than I expected him to, which tells me that his conditioning. He's staying very much in shape, which is a good thing if he wants to continue fighting. So I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Lucas, on the other hand, they asked him in regards to him retiring. He's only 35 years old. He's had a pretty successful career. He's 39-5. He lost the WBA welterweight title last night to Manny Pacquiao. So I mean, his last 4 fights, he's 2-2. He won the 2 previous to the last night's fight. He beat Tiwa Karam back in January to win the WBA welterweight title, and he lost it to Manny last night. And he didn't drop any hints in regards to his retirement. He was asked about it last night, and he didn't drop any hints as to whether or not thinking that he would. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's known for being a power puncher, but he didn't show that last night. I mean, Lucas, his quality of opponent is iffy. He's fought some really good guys. He beat Ortiz. He lost to Postol. He lost to Danny Garcia. He beat Lamont Peterson. He lost to Zab Judah. But the thing is with Lucas, he's known for being a power guy. He's 39-5. 36 of those 39 wins have come by KO. So this guy can bang. He's known for dropping dudes. He just didn't show that last night. And I'm sure that the fact that he fought a guy with the defense like Manny had a lot to do with that. But he didn't seem. You would think that he would be able to do at least a little bit of damage. He didn't really show that at all last night. And again, this is a power punching guy. Lucas is. So I don't know. But he definitely made it clear that he was not considering any type of retirement anytime soon. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how he moves forward as well. That'll be left to be seen. Nevertheless, W last night for Manny Pacquiao. I just hope you know what? Go ahead. If that's what Bob Arum wants to do, if he wants to attempt to put this guy up against Vasily Lomachenko, I don't know. And you know what? I don't like to say debate. I don't like to debate on Facebook, but I had a discussion with a few of my friends on Facebook about Loma, and I'm surprised at the amount of people who really aren't fans of Loma. Even if I don't know, whatever the reason is, it seems to me that if you are a fan of boxing, you would just naturally like this guy just to watch him and the skill level and the fluent of movement and his boxing ability. And I just don't know how you cannot. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I just don't know how you cannot like this guy as a boxing fan. I don't know. Like, I had some friends say, he didn't fight anybody. Tell that to Regan Dow, even though he was a little bit older, but still, he's making these guys quit, man. But nevertheless, Bob Arum is talking about putting him up against Manny Pacquiao up against him. I just don't think that fight would end well on Pacquiao's behalf. But nevertheless, we'll have to wait and see. Real quick, we want to talk about the results from Bellator 203. But first, I want to give a shout out to another one of my sponsors, which is Be More Customs. When y'all get a chance, please check this Facebook page out, man. If you're into the body care products and a few other things that they have there too, man. They have awesome stuff there. Be More Customs, man, where you can get quality custom shirts and hoodies, also customized soaps, lotions, body washes, body scrubs, body butters, perfumes, cologne, sprays, and more with all of your favorite fragrances. Go like them on their Facebook page right now. Go right now, right? Well, after the show. Go check their Facebook page out and hit like, man. If you tell them Combat Conversation sent you, you will get 20% off your first order and a 10% discount on future orders. Again, go over to the Be More Customs Facebook page and hit like. Send them a message and let them know Combat Conversation sent you, and you will get 20% off of your first order and 10% off all your futures orders. I have not used their clothing items. I have seen it, and they look pretty awesome. I have used their body care products. I absolutely love the peppermint soap and their body oils. There's fragrance, their scented oils. They're pretty awesome, man. And the soaps are awesome, too. I promise you, you will not regret it. Really, really good quality stuff. There's stuff that I've actually used. I love it. So go check them out right now. Bellator 203 happened this Friday. My man, Patricio Pitbull Fieri, he looked really good, but he narrowly escaped with the skin of his behind, getting a win, defending his featherweight title, man. He was able to hold on to his featherweight belt, man, going up against Daniel Weichel. This is a rematch from them fighting back in June of 2015. Pitbull won that fight by KO. Was not able to get the same result as far as the win this time, but he did get the W. And Daniel looked really good. Yeah, I thought it was a really dope fight. Daniel looked good, but Pitbull was able to pull off more to score the W last night. I agreed with the W. So Patricio last night with the win, he goes to 27-4 with the 15-4 MMA Bellator MMA record. This is his second time being the featherweight champion over there at Bellator. But he looked really good. This was, again, I was saying this at the beginning of the program. This was the main event for the Bellator 203 card. And this was the only fight that really had like big names on it as far as Bellator. I really like Bellator. They have some awesome fights. And the card Friday was proof of that. Because this fight ended in a decision win for Pitbull, but all the other fights that were on that main card, they all ended in finishes. Like maybe first round, second round finishes. Whether it been KO, TKO, the stoppage, or whatever, they all ended in finishes. So shout out to Bellator for putting on an action, even though the fights were short. You got to give them a shout out for putting on an action-packed card, man. Bellator is pretty dope, man. If you aren't following Bellator, definitely check them out, man. You are missing some treats if you are a fan of MMA, I promise you. But this was a good fight for Pitbull, man. Pitbull Patricio. The fight was pretty evenly matched for most of the fight. Up until at least that fifth round, you started to see, and it looked like as if that Daniel was starting to be getting a little fatigued. But Pitbull kind of, started to pull away from him a little bit in that fifth round, and it looked like it was because Daniel was tired. But up until that point, in my opinion, the fight seemed to be evenly matched. At least I thought so. 2 of the 3 judges felt the same way that I felt, man, that Pitbull had did more to win the fight. There was the third judge, Derek, clearly, he was the one that gave his decision to Daniel. So Pitbull walked away with the split decision win. But he did. He looked really good last night, man. I'm just trying to figure out, man, who his next opponent is going to be, man. Looking at the Bellator's featherweight division, I don't know, man. Just looking at the featherweight division in Bellator, it just seems like that nobody is able to deal with Pitbull, man. His only losses in the past 6 years, as far as Daniel. His only losses in the past 6 years were against Fieri. So other than Weichel, I don't really see anybody else being able to come up against Pitbull, man. But we'll see how Bellator handles that featherweight division, man, moving forward. I just thought it was dope. Moving forward, man, next week, next Sunday, again, we won't be here next Sunday. I'll be out of town at a wine festival, but we will be back the following Sunday, the 29th. But in the meantime, we have another UFC Fight Night that will be taking place next Sunday on the 22nd. The card on that looks pretty decent. We have Mauricio Shogun Rua. He'll be going up against Anthony Smith next Sunday on the 22nd. Shogun Rua, another MMA legend. I'm pretty sure he'll be going into the MMA Hall of Fame in a few years. He's a former light heavyweight champ. He's 25-10, and he's won his last 3 fights, so he's looked good. He's fighting Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is 29-13. He's won 4 of his last 5 fights. So Shogun Rua will be taking on Anthony Smith. Looking at the UFC's light heavyweight division, Shogun Rua is ranked number 8. So Anthony Smith is, I'm sure that he's trying to get put on the rankings. And of course, when UFC adjusts their rankings midweek, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday, I don't expect to see Anthony Smith on here because there really wasn't too much action taking place in the light heavyweight division. You had Daniel Cormier, but he didn't fight. He fought as a heavyweight. But yeah, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see after they adjust the rankings. But this fight won't take place until Sunday, so we'll find out after that. Also on that card, we have Glover Teixeira versus Corey Anderson. This is another light heavyweight bout that would affect that division and its ranking. Tex, he is 27-6. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, but Glover is a former light heavyweight title contender. He is currently ranked number 3 in the light heavyweight division. He is fighting Corey Anderson. Now, Corey is 10-4, and he's just getting back into the win column. His last win was in April with a UD win over Pat Cummins after 2 previous back-to-back losses before that win in April. But he's fighting against Glover. Glover's trying to get back into title contention, man. I remember he fought John Jones for the light heavyweight belt. I remember that specifically because that fight took place here at the arena in Baltimore. So I remember that fight specifically. So we'll see. Those fights will be taking place this Sunday on the 22nd. We will find out what's good with those fights and whatever events we have taking place from now until the following Sunday, the 29th, because that's when we'll be back. So hope y'all miss me next Sunday, but we'll be back on the 29th with more news, info, and everything that's jumping off in the world of MMA, boxing, combat sports, martial arts, all that. So I will see you guys in 2 weeks, and until then, I'll talk to you later, family. Deuces.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.